weighs 50 pounds. What is up, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to be installing a bumper on the Ford Bronco. Jack and I literally just got back yesterday. There's shoes over there. We literally just got back yesterday from a epic, almost 3.5 week adventure in Colorado. And I had my bumper and my winch here waiting for me when I got back. So today what we're going to be installing is a CBI hybrid front bumper and a Warn VR Evo synthetic cable winch on the front of my Ford Bronco. I do have to give a shout out to CBI Offroad and Prince Design Studios. They are the sponsor of this video, or sponsored in part by, they sent me the bumper to run on the Bronco. I've been working with them for, man, 5 or 6 years. I've had several of their components on several different vehicles.
Flashback. End of flashback.
And they've never steered me wrong. They've always done exactly what they're intended to do, and they always look great in the process of doing so as well. So also huge shout out to Warn and Factor 55. They did sponsor the winch for me, so again I have to give those guys a huge thanks. You know, if you're in the market for armor or recovery, I highly suggest you click the link in the bio for CBI Offroad and Warn Industries and Factor 55. So while the front bumper on the Ford Bronco is a modular bumper, and they do make a winch mounting plate for it, like I said, I've worked with these guys for a long time, so I'm going to support those who've supported me. So I do want to mention on this bumper, I don't know the net weight. I'm going to take a measurement of it or weigh it so I can give you guys an example of the weight difference net from the factory modular front bumper and this. This is a hybrid, so they've cut weight anywhere that they can. What's really cool about this bumper too is it's a two-piece bumper, meaning the main winch mounting plate bolts to the Bronco first, and then the front bumper cover, so to speak, bolts to that. Should make the install a lot easier than a traditional just big replacement bumper where you've got to, mount the winch in the bumper and then pick the whole thing up and mount it to your truck. This allows you to run the winch plate, mount the winch, and then mount the main skin of the bumper. So it should be a really easy install. Because my Bronco is the Luxe package and has the adaptive cruise control, it does come with a bracket to relocate my adaptive cruise, so that way that still is operational like it would be from factory. I do have the park sense in the front, so all of my factory sensors will come out of the factory bumper and mount directly into the aftermarket bumper. So all that still is operational as well. So in case you're wondering about that. Personally, I want to know what the net weight difference is between the factory modular front bumper, which is the steel bumper, and my aftermarket one. So the only way I know how to do this is to go get Jackie's scale, who's holding the camera right now, so she's probably not gonna like this. And then
you're buying me a new scale.
If I break your scale, I'll buy you a new one. So the first piece of the bumper, let's see if this will work.
You're lucky I'm not on prep right now. I would be totally against this.
This is staying on there.
But what about that box? You can use that box right there for this or that? Yeah, that works too.
Okay, turn it back on.
So we see that is...
All right, that weighs 3.4 pounds, so we're gonna take that off.
Stay.
30 pounds minus 3.4, so
26.6.
26.6
Wow.
pounds.
Don't ask me to math.
So 26.6 for this, 60.4. So 60 minus 3.
56.6.
57.
We're gonna put the meme that's like the math.
Okay, we got the weight. So the whole bumper weighs 83.6 pounds. So there you go.
What about that metal piece?
That's maybe a half a pound. I don't weigh nothing.
Okay.
So 83.6 pounds is what this aftermarket CBI front bumper weighs. I'll give you the weight of the factory modular bumper when I get it off. I want to show you guys the net difference because changing the weight of your truck changes the way that the suspension will handle off-road. So we're going to be adding a winch, and of course this bumper is probably a little heavier, so that way you guys can understand how much weight you're actually adding to the front of your Broncos, because it'll change ride height and suspension handling and all kind of stuff. I didn't break your scale.
You didn't. I'm actually very proud of you. Good thing it's that light. Otherwise, if we were putting like the winch on there, I almost said bench.
Yeah, I will weigh the winch though.
Is that gonna break my scale?
Maybe not. Okay, so let's get this front bumper off. I already have the skid plate removed because I have skid plates that I'm gonna switch out as well, but you do not have to pull the skid plate to get the bumper off. What you do have to do is on the front cover of this modular front bumper, there's 4 little plastic push pin things. And so I just have a clip remover tool, and then you're just gonna basically pry these little plastic things out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Once you get those off, this plastic cover will just kind of unsnap. Like so. Same thing on the other side. You can use a screwdriver to do this. Clip remover tool is probably the easiest, just so you're aware. Pull those off. Same thing. Just gently pry this off. Boom. Okay, and then now all we're gonna do is remove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 bolts on the front, and the whole bumper will just come off. You do need to, on the back side, you got your harnesses for the sensor, so make sure that you've removed your harness so that way you don't rip your harness off when you pull the bumper out. All right, well, your main harness for the bumper, if you've got the sensors, is over here on the corner. And once you've got that unplugged, the bumper should just lift right off. Boom. Like so. Whew. There you go. Now I'm gonna weigh it so you guys get an idea of how heavy this one is, because that's actually got some weight on it, to be honest with you guys. I just weighed the factory bumper. It weighs 80 pounds exactly, so there's a 3-pound net gain with the aftermarket bumper, excluding adding the winch. Keep in mind that's another probably, I don't know, 40 pounds I guess. But overall, that's not bad considering you're adding an aftermarket bumper. So really the only weight that you're adding is just the physical winch. So keep in mind, synthetic rope is gonna help you cut a little more weight versus a steel cable. Man, it is hot and humid today, sorry. Okay, let's go ahead and install this new one. Okay, so we got to take the grill off because the adaptive cruise sensor gets relocated up here behind the grill. So you've got a bunch of little plastic pins in here that holds this on, so just be careful taking these off. I have shown this in a different video, so if you guys want to go back to the grill LED install, you can see how to get these off if you don't know how. You should be able to figure it out, just be careful. Okay, so if you have the adaptive cruise control, you will have to take this sensor off and it gets relocated. So before you mount your winch plate tight, leave it loose so you have access to it. This cover just sort of snaps on. It'll pull off like this and then up, which gives you access to the sensor. So there is 1, 2, 3 10mm bolts, and then the sensor will come off, and then I'll show you where we're going to relocate that at. Okay, so if you're curious about how this sensor comes off, it literally is just pressed in on these little ball socket things. So again, just use your little clip remover tool and gently pry the metal bracket away from the sensor itself. And then we're going to be relocating it here like so with these spacers and bolts. And I'll show you that in just a second. Okay, and that little update just because I'm as I'm figuring this out myself. These little plastic grommet things that use to snap onto these balls are pressed into the sensor. They do have to come off. So if you look closely, if you look closely, that's just a series of little tabs. So you'll just carefully squeeze them out and then press it out of the main sensor. So that way, again, in the slight chance you want to go back to stock, which I will have to go because this Bronco does not belong to me, but I can put all this back to how it was from factory. Okay, so it's loosely mounted right now, but this is what your relocation bracket will look like. So bracket, bolt, washer, aluminum spacer, lock nut. So you got 3 of those. You'll lock it all down, and then this will bolt up here, and I'll show you that in just a second. So where this is going to mount is right there. So you can see these 2 10mm bolts here and there basically sit right there and bolt in. So in order to make that work, the 2 top grill shutters here, we'll need to pop those off, and then we're going to notch this plastic here a couple inches, and then it'll drop right in there. So all I did to cut this was I got my Leatherman out, because this has got a really nice fine aggressive blade, and you can see just 2 little cuts here and there, and then the 2 fins here, which should give me enough room for that to sit right in that hole, just like so. And like I said, we're going to remove just this top grill shutter here, so that way it'll sit down all the way in place. So I'm going to do that real quick. Okay, so this is not the easiest of install, just being totally honest with you guys. So the harness for that sensor is right here, you know, which routed down kind of right here and then right behind here. You can see where all the little tabs were, where it was clipped at. All of this was accessible with it mounted, but there's one plug for the grill shutter motor for the intercooler. That plug right here you cannot get to. So the reason being is it's got a lock on that plug to keep it from coming off. So we need to unplug this, separate this pigtail from that pigtail, because this has to be relocated up higher to plug into the sensor. So in order to do that, this assembly has to come off. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and then it just comes off. So yeah, what a pain in the ass. Now what we're going to do, or I'm going to do, is pull these clips off, and I've got to pull this harness away basically to here, because I will have to route it up instead of down. So go ahead and do that real quick. Okay, so this is what the separated harness looks like. Honestly, this part right here has been the hardest part of this whole install. The rest of it's going to go super easy, but just because this is really meticulous, it's just, yeah, made this a bit interesting. Nonetheless, so got the harness pulled apart. All the original loom I pulled off, so it was just bare wire. So this one will go up to the cruise control. This stays down at the bottom, and then I just ran, you know, 3 or 4 layers of electrical tape to recover the wires. So this will plug right back in right here, like so. Maybe. There we go. That. Snap back in place. This will now go up. This will go back where it was a while ago. So I'm going to go ahead and put all this back together. Before I run this wire, I'll show you how I route it. That way you guys know how I'm doing that. And then go ahead and put on the best part of this install, the actual bumper. Okay, so here's my harness right here. And what I'm going to do is, if you look, really hard for you guys to see, but right next to the radiator in front of the condenser, the hood latch cable is right there. So basically that hole is where I'm going to come up and then go right behind here to plug into this sensor. So I just got a big zip tie, taped it to the end, and then just gonna route it up like so until I see it. There it is. All right, I'm gonna put you guys down for a second. Okay, just like that. So I know it's really dark in there, but anyway, there's my harness. I'll pull off my tape and then run it behind and then plug it in right there. So, and then adaptive cruise will be operational again. Now that that all is done, which was very time consuming, I'm not gonna lie. If you don't have adaptive cruise, you probably would have had the bumper and winch totally mounted already, but because I have adaptive cruise, that made that a royal pain. So adaptive cruise is relocated and rewired. Now it's time to mount the winch plate utilizing the factory hardware. So just gonna sit up here like so. Just put a bolt in just to hang it up. 2, 4, 5, and 6. This winch mount, it can go up, down, left, and right. So what I've done is I've banged it down as far low as it will go. And the reason being is because, not that I don't want more of a gap between the top of the bumper surface and the body, I kind of do, because I have video of this thing when it's really flexed out. You can see the bumper and the body gap move and compress because the body actually moves from the frame. So when you're in your extreme articulation and flexed, I don't want the body to make contact with the bumper and scratch this all up. So I'd rather have a little bit bigger gap between the two. That way there's not gonna be any interference if I'm off-roading. So long story short, it's banged as far down as it'll go. And then I have there's a center manufacturing point on this thing. So I've basically just looked at this in a center line of the Bronco and then gonna bolt it down, and then I'll set my winch in and then bolt that to the bumper, and then it'll be ready to rock. So let's go ahead and lock her down. All right, installing the winch. 4 nuts that go on the bottom of this thing. You know, I didn't weigh this. Let me weigh this for you guys. So this thing weighs 50 pounds. Man. Okay. All right, let's find my holes. Okay. Whew. All right, the Warn winch comes with this old school, you know, forged hook, which, you know, while this is definitely, it works. My homies at Factor 55 sent me an ultra hook, which is the ultimate when it comes to, your shackle, your hook, your loop, closed mount, shackle mount system. This is just the best way to go. Anyway, so little bitty pin here comes off, that slides out, and then my winch line will basically go in its place. Pin goes back in, and then there you go. So that's what I'll be running instead. So you'll need a little pair of snap ring pliers to pull this little pin out so you can get your pin out. But yeah, once I get everything all set up, then I will mount that the way it's supposed to be. It's coming along, guys. It's coming along. It's been a long day, but it's getting close. Okay, I've got my ground wire already ran, nice and kind of out of the way. This is where it is right here. Comes in underneath the headlight, in between the main core support brace and the battery. There is a extra hole on the negative terminal, so I just got a grade 8 bolt and then bolted the ground right there. So, and then on the positive side of things, I'm using expanded wire loom to loom the whole entire positive side. That way, once I run it up through here, over time of it vibrating on stuff, it's not gonna, it's a longer time for it to wear through. So then I'll run it around the same direction to the back, and then probably tap in this main right here versus this little bigger post for a little more juice. But either way, it'll come around the back and come up to the side right here. And then I can hang the pretty part. Okay. So here is my hot cable for the winch. Again, now it has got expanded, oops, let me zoom in not correctly, expanded wire loom over it. Necessary? No. Beneficial? Yes. So again, it's just, it'll make it look a little cleaner up under here to match some of the other stuff I've already got wired up. And then also, it's just one extra preventative measure from things rubbing and small oscillations and vibrations to keep from penetrating this hot wire, because there is no fuse on this cable. So if this original wire loom on this gets penetrated on some metal, that is a surefire way to have not a good day. So just a little extra preventative measure there, and it looks nice. Okay, well, when they say this bumper is modular, they are not lying. There was a bunch of pieces, and unfortunately, the park sense sensors, the harness is completely encased in this, which by design is actually really great because there's no chance that wires can get snagged or ripped off, which is awesome. However, to pull the harness out to transfer it to that is a bear, because we've got to take off 1,000 bolts to take the inner structure, all of it out, because the wire harness, you can see, is inside of it. So yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. All right, I'm tired. I've been after this for a while, getting really close to wrapping it up. The adaptive cruise relocation was sort of a little bit of a pain, and then the park sense sensors, same thing. You got to just take apart the whole bumper to get the harness out of the bumper, which no big deal. But on this new bumper, the outer two sensors get moved a little wider, which means that you've got to cut the factory park sense harness and extend it about 10 inches. Again, not that big a deal. I would have rather not have had to have done that, or an extension harness to come with it. So this bumper is just very, very new, and the Bronco is very, very new. So that might be something that they add to it at a later point. Or at least I would like to see that, just because this is a ton of labor. So, all right, well, let me go ahead and cut these and extend them, and then plug it up, and then finally can hang the outside of the bumper. Okay,